Well, this is guerrilla warfare, So I've had teams around me from the S&P 500. Some of them were great and some of them disappointed me. I've had people around me who are seasoned in survival. Those are the people I like best because, when everything's crashing around you, you have to stay focused and survive. So, it's an art really to surround yourself with the best people. You really need the best people. The jockey is sometimes as good as the horse, and they have a incredible experience. They've been through life, a lot of them, for a number of decades. They've seen a lot of problems. They know how to solve problems. They have their own network of people. So you have to just surround yourself with very, very good people.
Today, I'm joined by Stephen Fox, chairman and founder of Akelos Incorporated. Stephen is a rare kind of builder. He's working at the intersection of science, academia, capital markets, and healthcare innovation. And he's done it not just as an inventor, but as an entrepreneur who takes responsibility for execution. Across his career, he's founded companies, worked with Nobel Prize-winning scientists, led public and private ventures, and navigated what happens when big ideas collide with real-world complexity. Today, we're going to talk about what it actually takes to lead, decide, and execute in the life sciences when the stakes are high and there's no playbook. Stephen, welcome to Inside Pharma Leadership.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. So tell me a little bit about your background. You have a pretty fascinating background and an incredible journey.
Well, I'm a cosmetic dentist by trade, like my father before me. And I got the entrepreneurial bug 40 years ago. I wanted to see if I could have even a larger impact in treating patients alone in healthcare. And I was able to license, I was the first one to license under the Omnibus Trade Bill, a technology from the American Dental Association, as well as the National Institute of Standard and Technology. And I took that technology, developed 68 patents, raised it to $75 million, took it public, and put a product in every store in America, 42,000 stores. Worked with a Nobel Prize winner, received the Ernst Young Entrepreneur of the Year, the Medal of Freedom from members of the United States Senate. So that really got the needle in my arm, so to speak. And from then on in, I've really been going at it.
Incredible background and incredible story. Tell me a little bit about how you bridged from dentistry into the non-opioid pain category.
It's actually an easy bridge. I would say that I've treated acute or chronic pain every day of the last 48 years. In dentistry, you have acute pain. It could be a root canal. And there's chronic pain. It could be the temporomandibular joint, atypical facial pain, trigeminal neuralgia. So nobody is more, I think, uniquely suited in terms of their education and their practice than a dentist who treats pain all the time.
Makes perfect sense. I remember back in the day selling a product and some of the studies were done in dental pain. So because it is so acute and over time, those patients obviously get better. So you sound like definitely an expert in the area. Why makes sense why you're in that area.
I guess so. I keep trying to stay in my lane and do something about it.
So at what point in your career did you realize you weren't just interested in ideas, but felt compelled to take responsibility for making them real?
Well, I mean, I have a work ethic. A work ethic was installed in me by my family, my parents. And I always wanted to couple that with doing something for the common good. And after I got my degree, one thing led to the other, and I saw what I could do. And I saw if you're tenacious and you stick with it and you don't take no for an answer and you believe in it, you can get it done. So I used that as my background and always was hunting and was always curious to see what's out there and what could be developed.
Makes perfect sense. So, Stephen, one of the things I'm fascinated, you said earlier that you had 68 patents. So what does that process look like? That sounds like not only a lot of work, but it sounds like you have some type of systemic process to do something consistently time and time again.
Well, at the time when I had a public company, I had a research and development department. So you're always trying to think of new products to patent. You have patent lawyers, and you're trying to build moats around your technology all the time. And so one patent leads to another patent, which leads to another patent. Sometimes as an entrepreneur, I realized that I might have overdone it because it wasn't necessarily to my benefit to spend a lot of money on patent 43, 44, and 45, but that's in hindsight. But now we have a very unique patent at Akelos, which is a non-opioid, non-addictive lead for chronic pain to solve the opioid crisis, to treat hundreds of millions of people who have pain from diabetes, shingles, post-surgical pain, or chemotherapy. And those patents are, I think that patent is going to be very, very valuable as time moves on.
Makes perfect sense. Now, I know one of the areas that you've been involved with recently is raising capital. What have been some of the challenges that you've seen raising capital in the last couple of years?
It's always difficult to raise capital. Initially, in my case, Cornell and Columbia University put capital into this product development. And then we were fortunate enough to get non-dilutive funding from the NIH. So there are always grants around if you can nail one down. And I have a private placement memorandum circulating to accredited investors. So I have found that about 70% of the investors have been doctors. One of them was the a biotech analyst at Oppenheimer. So you have to just stay out there, go to conferences, talk to your blue in the face, and raise the capital. It's not an easy process. It's not everyone is not built for it, but it has to be done if you want to get a product out there.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. It's, I guess, one of the challenges, you kind of have to be all things to everybody. Not only are you the CEO, you're also the number one physician and the clinical person also. So it's kind of two different skill sets that you're involved in that you're utilizing.
It's more than two. It's a three-dimensional chessboard, and you're always triangulating and always surviving. And you have to understand the steps. I mean, the first time I did it, I learned to ride the bike while I rode it. Now I understand what accountants do, what cap tables are, what PPMs are, what an R&D department is, what sales and marketing is, what it is to be chairman of a public company, how to raise money, when to raise money. There's so many different aspects to this whole process, but you develop those skills. You're not going to learn them in a college. You have to learn them by doing them.
I always joke and say entrepreneurship is the best developmental opportunity that you'll ever get, because if you don't know it, you're going to find out pretty quickly the stuff that you don't know.
And everything that you think you know may not necessarily be true. And there's always a new problem that comes out of left field. And those are the skill sets that you develop and you have to implement them.
Makes perfect sense. That leads me to this question. What capabilities do you think that founders routinely overestimate in themselves and underestimate in the teams that they need around them?
Well, this is guerrilla warfare. So I've had teams around me from the S&P 500. Some of them were great and some of them disappointed me. I've had people around me who are seasoned in survival. Those are the people I like best because, when everything's crashing around you, you have to stay focused and survive. So, it's an art really to surround yourself with the best people. You really need the best people. The jockey is sometimes as good as the horse. And they have a incredible experience. They've been through life, a lot of them, for a number of decades. They've seen a lot of problems. They know how to solve problems. They have their own network of people. So you have to just surround yourself with very, very good people.
Makes really good sense. What does that process look like in your mind? I know that a lot of organizations do recruiting and selection. And I have a feeling when you're an entrepreneur that that's not necessarily the type of thing that you're doing, recruiting and selection, more around
Well,
conversations with people.
I've never had a headhunter. I mean, I really didn't have the capital when I was building a company to spend, one third of somebody's salary on a headhunter. So I went to LinkedIn, I went to Google. I could Google, who is a retired chief of neuroscience at a major pharma company as an example. And then I would contact those people and show them the patents and show them our science because you have to have that first. And if they're interested in that and they think that they want to participate and they do their due diligence, you very often will find that you can build your team without spending money, a great team. But your science has to have the legs.
And one of the things I hear from CEOs is the lack of talent. Have you found that to be a challenge for you?
Well, I think there's a lot of talent out there. The challenge is finding the people with the talent. And that's an art form. I'm not going to tell you if I do an interview that I necessarily have done the best interview. And you have to be prepared to say to yourself, if this person's not working out, well, I got to find somebody else. I mean, you have to change it up sometimes, but it's always a gamble.
Yeah, I always say recruiting and selection is a little bit of art and a little bit of science, a little bit of
Exactly.
this and that.
And so is medicine and so is dentistry. It's a combination
Yeah.
of art and science. So are a lot of occupations.
Yeah, I think most things in life, there's the science background and then there's your experience and then there's kind of this art piece that sits in the middle there.
That's what I call three-dimensional chess.
That being said, are you a chess player?
I was a long, long, long time ago. Not anymore. I don't have the time really For fun and games, I get up at 5 in the morning and I finish at 9 at night, and every minute has to count.
Sounds like a typical entrepreneur.
Well, I always exercise, so that helps.
Yeah, well, that's kind of one of the things that it's almost a part of the job description because if you're not in good shape, you can't run from 5 a.m. to 9 p.m.
There's no question. And you have to have a strength of character. You really have to have a persistence that most people don't have. You have to be able to get up off the mat many times and survive. Not everybody's built for that. They don't have to be built for that. But that's what I enjoy. I enjoy being in the game.
Yeah, it's a big high off of that. So, what would you say would be some of the biggest challenges that you're seeing right now within your organization?
Well, for us, we have a phenomenal team. We have the former heads of neuroscience at Merck, Lilly, Pfizer, former chief counsel to the FDA, former Senate Majority Leader, a Nobel Prize winner in chemistry, head of pain at Harvard Medical, a former head of licensing at Harvard, and the head of business development at Amgen. We have a patent that's been patented in Australia, Japan, China, the United States. We have just a phenomenal database that we have published in Nature magazine, as well as the British Journal of Anesthesia, two of the most prestigious journals in the world. So the only thing I need now is money. Money is what gets you through the contract research organization testing. And that's what I'm out there hunting for to finish this up and hopefully change modern medicine because I think we can do it.
That would be something that would be incredible if you can get this product to the marketplace. There's such a huge need and such a huge gap versus what we've been doing in the past.
It's been referred to as the Holy Grail.
Yeah, I definitely believe that. Having something for patients that they can manage their pain, but not have to worry about addiction issues.
Well, the opioid crisis is the worst healthcare crisis in American history. There are 125 million opioid prescriptions written a year. It affects 1 in 3 American homes. It's killing 80 to 100,000 people a year. So something has to be done. And an antidote, Narcan isn't the answer, and panels aren't the answer, and study groups and army, it's just noise. I mean, it helps, but it's a Band-Aid. You have to develop a non-opioid drug to solve this problem because chronic pain isn't going away. You're not going to yoga your way out of it and eat your way out of it and meditate your way out of it. If you have diabetic pain or you have pain in chemotherapy, which some people would opt to die than finish, you need a real solution.
Yeah, and if I've had the unfortunate chance to live with somebody that had been in chronic pain, and it's devastating. People lose the
Well,
will to live, and
yes.
there's the emotional toll not only on the individual but also on the loved one. So it's an important area.
And we're also going through a medical charade. Now, physicians and dentists are writing prescriptions for antidepressants, anticonvulsants, and opioids for chronic pain, and they don't work. They weren't invented for that. The antidepressants are for depression. The anticonvulsants, we've shown gabapentin just doesn't work. They weren't invented for that purpose. And opioids take you out of your body and get you high and get you addicted, but they don't treat chronic pain.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think you're right. We used to joke that physician would give you certain medication. It wasn't to help you with your pain. It just would zonk you out and put you to sleep, that you didn't
Well,
realize that you were in pain.
you can't blame the doctors. They just don't have the drug they need.
Makes perfect sense. There are only so many different, medications that are out there, but most physicians get comfortable with the pieces and of things that they can, and ultimately it gets back to the science. It gets back to people that are there to be able to develop, innovative products into the marketplace that help with different types of diseases. A lot of those diseases are chronic.
And that's why I recognized that I could only treat so many patients. I only have two hands. But the bigger game plan has always for me be to be picking a situation that can help maybe 100 million people. So I toggle back and forth.
Makes absolute sense. Having worked with top scientists, investors, and institutions, what patterns separate ideas that survive from those that quietly disappear?
Well, the survivors are the ones that get through FDA testing and prove that they're right. The survivors may be somebody who's putting a product in the marketplace, and then they have to understand marketing, advertising, competition, sales. So that's another game plan. That's when you're competing for in the marketplace. So there are lots and lots of different situations where you have to survive, and you have to pull it all together somehow.
So if you were giving advice to an entrepreneur, what would that look like?
Well, that's a long conversation. But firstly, you have to remain tenacious. You have to not take no for an answer. You don't have to listen to people who are negative or who tell you what you're doing doesn't make sense. There are lots of obstacles that are psychological where people can impact you. You have to believe in your own journey and what you're trying to do. And so I would say that your science has to be sound. Your people have to be great. You have to think out of the box. You have to be nimble. You have to adjust. So that's a book. That's a book.
Yeah, that's why I said earlier that entrepreneurship is the best development because what you don't have is going to come right there in front of you, and there's just a lot of things
Yeah,
that you have to work on.
yeah. The problem. You wake up to the problems and you have to solve them. And that's not for everybody. It takes a certain kind of attitude, and I love the thrill of doing it, but I also have scars from it. So you have to be able to want that in your life. Not everybody's cut out for it.
Yeah. So what's your hope with this product? Obviously, to get it to marketplace, if you were going to put a time frame on it, what in your mind does that look like?
Well, I need probably 15 months to get to the IND, which is to complete tox studies and PK and PD studies on animals. And then I believe that we'll get fast track through phase 1, 2, and 3 on humans because the definition of fast track is meets an unmet medical need. I can't imagine one bigger than this. Ultimately, I would hope to help people who have chronic pain and wake up every day and ache and hurt. And that's hundreds of millions of people. And just as importantly, I would hope to solve or at least mitigate the opioid crisis because it's destroying American society, societies around the world. And if you're going to make America healthy again, you got to get past this.
Absolutely. Now, would you look to do the commercialization yourself?
Well, that's an interesting question. I don't know the answer. I get to the IND and go public. I don't know. I know the options, but I don't know what I'll do. That's a good problem to have. Build it and they will come.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Stephen, I know you've had a pretty crazy day so far, so I appreciate you
I
spending
have.
some time with me.
My
Any
pleasure.
last words that you want to share with the audience?
I would tell people to remain curious. Always look around and think and go on the internet and see what's out there and what people are doing and how companies are developing and ideas are developing. You could insert that into what you're doing, and you might find a better place to take something, some technology, take it to a better place or compete with it. Just remain curious, insatiably curious. There's a lot out there.
Well, Stephen, where can people find you?
I am at DrStevefox at akelosinc.com. Dr. Steve Fox at akelosinc.com. I'm on LinkedIn and I'm happy to talk to people. And, the more you expand your network, the more advantageous it can be to an entrepreneur.
Well, Stephen, thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate it.
My
And I
pleasure.
enjoyed our interview.
I did too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.